We just spent a very intense day here at the Inditel Symposium, learning all kinds of great stuff. Scott, you started off today with kind of a history of how we got here. Why don't you just kind of give us a brief overview of that, and we'll launch into some of the questions, some of the takeaways.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to review the start of Inditel, how we got going in 2002 with a simple, harmless phone call. The meetings that transpired afterwards, 2003. Recruiting others that we weren't aware of, but finding out that there were other statewide networks across the country and pulling it all together into the trade association that started in 2003 of Inditel.
And we'll hear more about that in another interview, but I think that was a great overview of where things are, and now you're looking at where things are going, and we had a very interesting discussion with an FBI person and another individual talking about the challenges that law enforcement has with cybersecurity.
You know, those of us who've been in the industry for a long time, it's been a wonderful career, and we've created some amazing infrastructure and some amazing technologies. But one thing that has happened along the way, in my opinion, is we've created a platform for things that we don't want to happen. And so the industry is very much turning its thoughts to how to protect the network that we've worked really hard on, put a lot of capital in, from those who want to do harm to the network.
Well, and it really got me thinking about this whole idea. You've got a gigabit into that house, and the reality is most of that is going to be used for other things, but that little bit that's criminal, it's really difficult to figure out what that is, right?
Yeah, listening to him speak, it is amazing to think about the amount of data that they have to sift through to find a little piece of information that they might need to identify the criminal activity that's going on. And it's not getting any easier as the bandwidth gets bigger and bigger.
And one of the messages, one of my takeaways was this whole idea of we really need to start with ourselves, and to evangelize this, we have to make sure that we're doing the right things to secure our own selves.
Yeah, we are all responsible for our own password protection. We've got to be aware that we can't replicate passwords. We have to use the right tools to keep those passwords, and we got to be aware of the social engineering that takes place way too often, both through email, phone call, and what have you, from the bad actors that are trying to get access into that kind of information.
In leading from that, we talked about fiber and fiber valuation, and that was I think a generally positive conversation.
Yeah, it talked about where we stand in the overall industry from a valuation standpoint. It's always interesting to learn about what our companies might be worth from a cash flow perspective and how it fits within the overall industry. Fiber providers versus wireless versus cable TV providers. So I think some of the feedback is we're in a very exciting area of the overall industry today.
Oh, and of course, it's all about fiber, and you have member companies all around the country, and you have this huge fiber network, and we heard from the MEF about the importance of those standards.
Yes, MEF has been doing a great job of developing standards for Ethernet, carrier Ethernet, over the past several years, and it definitely is a very important side of our business. So we have transitioned from T1s, DS3s, the TDM side of things, completely to Ethernet. So that presentation by Stan was very informative, and it's impactful to our businesses going forward. We ourselves train our employees. We must have about 25 employees who are trained now on MEF carrier Ethernet, and I think it's important for all of us as Inditel companies and fiber optic carriers to buy into that overall concept of standards, because standards have always been the foundation of our industry. Ethernet was the wild, wild west, but I think MEF is doing a great job of bringing everybody to the same page from an Ethernet perspective.
Yeah, and it sounds like they'll have to get on the same page because there's looking at things like security as a service and dynamic network changes and so forth, right?
Yeah, you think about where we've come as an industry and the Ethernet network that's in place. I don't know that we've seen or scratched the surface of what the potential is now of this Ethernet network, and he talked about the services and customers who might be able to self-provision their own bandwidth, who can nowadays do that over these Ethernet networks. That's the future of our networks.
Well, and your networks are powerful, and one of the things I got out of David Saxby's presentation is this whole idea of how do you help your affiliates sell what they have, the great services they have.
Yeah, so we've got the network in place, but it's a lot of capital. We've got to monetize it, and we not only have to monetize it as Inditel companies, but we are all focused on those independent telephone companies who are owners, who are looking to us to help them remain viable and successful. So yeah, David's presentation was very helpful for all of us to help us think about how we engage with our member telephone companies and help them be successful in selling to their end users.
It looks like Mel right now is hosting a panel on that very topic as far as some of the success practices your members have had in helping their members, right?
Yeah, we've got INS up there, South Dakota, and Indiana Fiber Network, and we got their sales VPs that are talking right now about their practices, some of the things that they're doing from an enterprise sales perspective. So that's all. You know what that is? That's a great example of what Inditel has been over the years. It's not only been the trade association helping us sell our businesses, it's not only just the interconnected network that it is today and Ethernet services that we can monetize, but it's been the internetworking amongst all of us and sharing of best practices, and that's what's going on right now.
Yeah, and that's funny because I've heard that repeatedly as I've asked the question, takeaway, and that's a big part of it, is just this kind of networking. So
yeah, yes, and what's been fun about the day today is we walked through all of the great presenters that we had, the great sessions, but as I walked out in the hallway here, there was a lot of dialogue that was going on amongst all of us, and that's been one of the wonderful aspects of Inditel, is the relationships and the dialogue that takes place, the sharing of information that helps us all as individual companies.
Excellent. Well, Scott, I really appreciate catching up with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.